Okay guys, you might want to sit down for this. I'm getting a divorce. Take it all in. I know. So today I want to talk about everyone's favorite trend, ASL, or the dance moves with your hands. Seems fun, maybe I should try it. Before we start, my name is Liz. This is my sign name in ASL, and I am a deaf content creator. So we are going to dive into this video together. We're going to hold hands. Before I talk about ASL being perceived as a trend and its issues, I will be talking about a little bit of history, like a brief summary of history, because it's my worst subject, but I do know some things. I know some things. Anyways, in my words, me, myself, and I's words, we'll be talking about history. So basically one day there was this man named Gaidat. He can hear. He met this deaf girl and he tried to communicate with her through gesturing, and he pointed to his hat on his head, and the girl noticed that, so she drew the hat in the sand. And that's when Gaidat realized, oh, deaf people can think and learn how to communicate too. And then Gaidat decided to take a little trip to Paris, see the sights, and meet up with this deaf man named Laurent Clerc who knew French Sign Language. The two of them collaborated together, and then when they went they went back to America, and there were more people involved, like the deaf community from Martha's Vineyard, and they involved with each other, collaborated, boom, 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 formed ASL. They started to spread it. Anyways, this formation of deaf schools being set up all across America led to the demand for more deaf teachers, ASL, language role models, and just a lot more that was involved in that process to help the next generation of kids. Until Alexander Graham Bell had a little something to say. Now imagine Alexander Graham Bell as the villain. Very salty man, and he also had a wife who was deaf and a kid who was deaf. He literally thought, y'all are faking it, so I'm gonna ban sign language. That's not exactly how it went, but like I'm exaggerating it a little bit. He also stole the patent for the telephone, by the way. He did ban sign language, which became a really dark time for deaf people, because before in deaf schools they were encouraged to use ASL and sign. But now that it's banned, there are more of an encouragement for oralism, which is like speaking and not signing. And even in the classrooms, like the teachers simcommed, and most of the time from what I've read, simcomming was not accurate, but also it was just up to signs given to the deaf person, and mostly it was just speaking, but it wasn't understood. So this push for oralism punished deaf people for using sign language in the classroom. So for example, if they were caught, their wrists were slapped, or they had to sit on their hands, or sometimes they would have to write on the board, like, I will not sign during class. I remember reading somewhere, someone said that every morning they had to line up in front of the teacher and they would check to see if their hearing aids were fully charged, which that is wild. Irony of this situation, and we still feel these impacts to this day, but while deaf people were looked down upon for signing and punished, hearing people were praised and encouraged to sign. This picture that shows what I'm saying perfectly, but like in the photo, you see a hearing baby and a deaf baby, and the hearing baby seems so happy, they're smiling, and I think maybe in the photo they're signing. But then you see the deaf baby and they seem so sad, they're handcuffed, and it clearly shows they're not allowed to sign. That difference is really dark and it's really sad. Now, even though the ban was lifted and deaf people are signing now even more than ever, we still feel that impact to this day, even on social media, where hearing people are encouraged to sign but deaf people are not. In social media, I have noticed with the algorithm that it tends to favor and push hearing creators that sign or attempt to sign, which is sometimes a strong word, while deaf people, when they make signing videos and they post it, it's ignored. For example, with ASL covers, I could see two types of people, a hearing person's video and then a deaf person's video. And then I've noticed with the hearing person, doesn't matter if they're attempting to sign or they're signing gibberish, their video gets pushed, while the deaf person's, even though the signs are so beautiful, I could watch it all day, it flops. When you see a hearing person make an ASL cover and it's not accurately representing ASL, it's just they're doing it for fun and then they post it online and that video goes viral, a lot of people are going to look at that video and think that is actually sign language and will copy it. And it becomes this game of telephone where as you go down the line, the more people that copy that video, the worse that those sign productions get. And I mean, it gets to a point where I don't even understand it at all. Something I want to mention is a lot of people look at a trend as like something fun and cute to do because there's low stakes involved, there's no risk, and I can just copy it and move on with my day because at the end of the day, trends come and go. However, when a trend involves something like spreading misinformation, like learning a language from the wrong source, and that gets spread, that could potentially harm that community that language comes from. And that's when a trend becomes something more serious, and misinformation is dangerous. Misinformation spreads like wildfire, and if there's a video that contains misinformation and it's viral, a lot of people are going to believe it and they're not even going to question it. Something about viral videos triggers something in our mind that makes us sit for a little bit longer to listen to what that video is saying. Even if we know that it's not true, but still sit and listen to it. To emphasize how dangerous this can be, do you remember that time, sometimes it pops up every now and then, of influencers telling you to quit your job and move to LA to make it? Do you remember that? Now, I know a lot of us are thinking like, why would I quit my job to move to LA to make it? Like, I need money, right? But there are some people who believe because they see that person's lifestyle and the benefits of quitting their job, but they don't see what's behind the scenes. They still believe that person because they're showing all these lavish things that they have and that they're rich, and they have this idea, oh, I moved to LA, I'm going to become rich. But there have been some stories of people moving to LA to try to make it, and eventually they become broke and homeless. The dangers of misinformation. This even applies to ASL. When you see a person online try and teach you ASL, or it looks like they're fluent in ASL, so you try and copy that video, and then later on you learn that those signs were wrong. It is so hard to let go of those mistakes and try to relearn everything again. So for someone who genuinely wants to learn ASL and they copy from something that's online and then they try and go out and sign with deaf people, they're going to be confused, and you're going to be confused too. I don't know how true this is, but I even noticed with the algorithm, I feel like it tends to push more people who use English signing compared to ASL, and maybe it's just because more people know how to sign in English, but like, it's the same thing with deaf creators. If one of them knows signing exact English and the other one uses ASL, the one with the signing exact English will be pushed more. But I do think that the algorithm tends to push more hearing people when it comes to signing online than deaf people. So with that example, with an ASL cover, I can see a deaf person's cover and it's beautiful. The signs are accurate, it's really visual, and they added captions. Beautiful access, perfect. Love it, I will save that video. Then I'll see a hearing person's video, and maybe they're trying their best, which is a good job. I love to watch people learning and trying to do sign language covers. However, it is clear when someone is doing it for clout and they're faking it, or it's gibberish, and it's clear that they copied a 30-second video just one time and then attempted to sign online. That is clear. But with those videos of hearing people faking sign language, typically you see that the comments are mostly positive. Like, people are saying, good job, you did your best, ASL so beautiful, blah blah blah. But with a deaf person's video, and I can talk about my experience too, whenever I post an ASL cover, typically most of my comments are negative and they're really harsh. Like, what are you throwing up, or gang signs. It's a big difference between a hearing creator's page and a deaf creator's page, and sometimes I feel discouraged from posting online because I know my comments, whenever I post an ASL cover, my comments are going to say, what are you throwing up, gang signs, or so-and-so did better, when the so-and-so in question is the person who's faking sign language. I know some people are going to be like, well, you're just jealous, it's no big deal that a hearing person's video blew up and yours didn't. Maybe I am, just a little bit, because I put in that 4 hours of work for nothing, but then a hearing person puts in like 30 seconds of work for something. But it is a big deal to mention this because some people equate virality to facts without doing their research to fact check if that video is true. They just believe it to be true because it's viral. When you come across a video and you see someone signing, you need to ask yourself a few things, like, are they deaf or hearing? It's easy to check their bio because most of the time a deaf person is going to put deaf or hard of hearing in their bio. Other things that you can ask yourself is like, are they expressive? Deaf people are very expressive in their face. They will make sure you know what they're feeling and what they're thinking. So make sure to ask, like, are they expressive? If their face is flat, it probably means that they're hearing. Or you can check to see if they're a teacher, or maybe in the captions it says I'm learning ASL, which thank you if you do that, because that clears everything up for people who are interested in learning ASL but are not sure if you're fluent or not. If you're going to do work to copy a language, you might as well do the work to make sure that that language is accurate. What I want to clear up is a lot of people are scared to post their ASL covers because they think they're doing something wrong, or because they're still learning they should not be posting their covers, which I don't think is true. I think if you want to post your ASL covers, by all means, post. At the same time, you need to be mindful and make sure that you put in the captions that you are still learning ASL, that you don't teach, and also add captions to the top of the screen, because most people don't add captions. Some are even included as CODAs, and deaf people don't add captions at the top of the screen, which is a whole different topic. I'm going to put that aside, but just make sure you're being a good person, and yeah, just make sure to provide that access with the captions plus your sign language. Like, sometimes your sign language is not going to make sense, which is fine because you're still learning, but make sure you have that captions up at the top of the screen and then add into the caption that you are still learning. Another thing to note is if you are going to post an ASL cover online, make sure you are willing to accept feedback from deaf people, because a lot of people take it the wrong way. I think some people are scared of the idea of getting feedback because a lot of people think that feedback means something negative, like they're trying to insult the other person, but in reality it's just areas to improve. It's not like you were doing anything wrong, you were just learning. And when a deaf person is giving you feedback, make sure you accept it. It doesn't matter if you disagree with that comment, just be nice. I've seen some people try to delete deaf people's comments of giving them feedback because they feel some type of way, so they delete them all, but then they keep all the positive comments. Like, don't do that. On the topic of feedback, I have also seen some hearing people get this big idea thinking it's okay to criticize a deaf person for their signing because, oh, I saw this one video of someone doing sign language and theirs is right and yours is wrong because yours looks different. Usually in my content, I try to show you guys the differences between what is ASL and what is not ASL by showing you my video and comparing it with someone else's that is faking it. And I've noticed in my comment section, like, some people will try to back up that person, and mind you, those people in my comment sections do not know ASL, but they learn about the different modes of ASL, like ASL, PSE, SE, which is Signing Exact English, and so they will try and argue that that person is doing SE or PSE. Like, I don't know that. Or the other argument I see from some people saying things like, it's a different sign language, don't you know that? Yeah, tell me which one. I feel like social media has made us too comfortable in believing that we know everything when we don't. Like, I saw a 30-second video on sign language and how to say how are you, so I'm automatically fluent and I can teach online now. Hello? I feel like some people think, well, not some, a lot of people think that sign language is easy, but it's not easy. It's not an easy language and you can't just learn it overnight. But social media makes us think we can learn anything overnight, including sign language. And also there's this notion that I'm trying to use big vocabulary to show you guys, like, I know my stuff in English. Also, there is this notion where people believe that a spoken language is superior than a sign language because spoken language seems more difficult and a sign language seems more easy, and I can just go ahead and take advantage of sign language because it's not even a language. So when I see people online take advantage of sign language and they'll try and teach it or criticize deaf people or post ASL covers and they have no idea what they're talking about, it boils my blood. I do think that social media makes us lose the sensitivity to respect and honor community where a language comes from, and instead of respecting them, we just take advantage of it for views and money. I've been seeing some people in our own community take advantage of signing, like teaching it online, or they do ASL covers but they don't uplift the deaf community, or they make these little videos, short story times, without adding captions, and maybe the signs are not clear and I don't understand what they're talking about because there's no captions. Like, there are some people in our own community who do take advantage of ASL for clout. I wanted to add that there's been some recent developments in the deaf community with CODAs taking advantage of the deaf community in ASL. Unfortunately, I have trust issues with CODAs, and this just confirms my trust issues even more. Basically, if you don't know already, there's these 2 CODAs on social media that have been doing sign language covers for Clout. And recently their videos have been blowing up, and one thing led to another. Someone hired them to go to Paris and teach ASL on an app that costs $15 monthly. One thing I have to add is that CODAs don't get a pass for teaching ASL. Just because their parents are deaf doesn't mean that they are fluent in sign language. And also, CODAs grow up with this privilege of benefiting from the deaf community, like learning sign language, while not receiving the downsides of being deaf, like being discriminated against or being pushed out by the hearing world, or trying to apply for a job and really fighting hard for that job, but then at the end of the day they get replaced with a hearing person. And as CODAs, they should be aware of what deaf people go through every day, trying to get people to see them as humans. Something everyone needs to understand is with these limited opportunities that deaf people have and fight really hard to get, the one thing that we're really good at is sharing our culture and language, like teaching ASL. So when 2 people have that cultural awareness and understanding, know that deaf people get less job opportunities than hearing people overall, and have deaf parents, decide to put that aside, ignore all of that, and accept a job in Paris teaching ASL when one of them is kind of not fluent. What are we doing? Knowing good and well that them 2 have deaf family members and friends, when this opportunity was presented to them, they could have just said, oh, thank you for this opportunity, but I'm so sorry, I have to decline. Even though I'm a CODA, I am not deaf myself, so here's a list of deaf people I can give you that will accept the job. It really is that simple in being an advocate for your community and saying that, oh, I'm fighting really hard for access in Paris? Right. Anyways, I hope they learn from the mistakes and do better in the future. Now back to the video. When deaf people try to bring attention to these topics, like what I'm doing, where there is a lack of access or people are taking advantage of ASL for clout, we are typically looked down upon or dismissed or shut out just because we're deaf, and we're constantly being told, you're complaining too much, you are overreacting. And it's hard to understand these things when you don't experience them, like feeling isolated from the family because they don't sign, so you have to lip read and try your best but get headaches from trying to catch everything, or going to a doctor's appointment and realize that the doctor canceled your interpreter, so too bad, or trying to apply for a job and prove to the workers that you can work too even though you're deaf. One good thing about social media is that it allows us to connect with each other. Like a deaf person could talk about their experiences growing up, and you see that sign language, and you as a hearing person are watching that video and learning more about deaf people. Or it's like vice versa too. I could be watching one of your videos and you talk about your experiences growing up, or just whatever that you learned, and I'm learning too. But definitely social media helps us provide that exposure. Now sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative, but it helps us teach each other and learn from each other. I could go on and on, but I've been talking your head off for about an hour and a half, so I guess the one thing that I want to say, the last thing I want to say, is that language is connected to culture and community. Without those 2, you wouldn't have language, so respect that culture and community where the language comes from when you are learning. When people treat ASL like a cute little trend, it is really disrespectful to the deaf community and it can harm us. At the end of the day, we want you guys to learn ASL, but learn from the right source, and that is a deaf person who is qualified to teach. If you take away anything from this video, is that to be kind to one another, be respectful, and if you make mistakes, it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes, just make sure to learn from each other and move forward. I hope you guys eat something good and drink some water today, and please just have a wonderful day and take care, and thank you so much for watching. I love you guys so much. I'll see you next time.